Welcome everyone to How to Write a Business Plan, hosted by the City of Mississauga, presented by the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center. I'm Laura Dunkley. I'm the Digital Marketing Consultant at the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center, MBEC, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. A little bit about MBEC. We are your central source for small business information, resources, and guidance. If you're interested in reaching out to us, please connect with us. Mississauga.ca/MBEC has information how to reach out to us by email, social media. Please connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Mississauga EDO. Today, we welcome our small business consultant, Sue Lovelace, for the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center. She works diligently to support our small businesses here in Mississauga and has a long list of experiences of years in the entrepreneurial world, specifically in the food industry, but she has been serving and providing consultations for small businesses owners for many years. Welcome, Sue. If you want to connect with Sue after this, her email address is susan.lovelace@mississauga.ca and her phone number is included here. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn. So Sue, without further ado, I'm going to put everything over to you.
And thank you, everyone. Sorry about a little technical difficulty there. As Laura mentioned, I was in the food business. I was a franchisee for Domino's Pizza for 24 years, and 15 years previous to that, I worked in all sorts of different restaurants. Started as waitress, back of house, bartending, and eventually into management. I actually managed quite a few restaurants, and after working nights and weekends for many years, thought, I think it's about time that I have my own because I'm making all these sacrifices. As I go through the presentations, I'm probably going to give you some examples of my experience in my restaurant because I actually purchased a bankrupt pizza store. There were a lot more challenges, but I'll give you some interesting examples as we go through the presentation today. So why are you here today? Most likely because you have heard about this thing called a business plan and you want to find out what's the best way to write one? How do I write a viable business plan? So we're going to talk about that. What is the purpose of a business plan? I'm going to give you some definitions, talk about the different types of business plans, and all the sections that should be included in a business plan. Now, there are mandatory sections, and over the years, I've seen people write a lot of different types of business plans. As long as all the information is in there, and as long as you remember who your reader is, for example, if you're going to a bank, they're going to be very interested in the financial section, so you want to spend a lot of time there. But anyway, we're going to review this. Laura is going to give you some helpful links to some business plan templates and also a lot of resources that can help you with your research. The resources for business, this is where we're going to talk about some of the links and some of the databases that are out there that can help you. I am going to talk a little bit about the Starter Company Plus program, which is a program that I run. And as Laura mentioned, we have our info sessions for Starter Company that are mandatory if you plan to apply. And we will give that information a little later on. And as Laura mentioned, we would like to keep the questions till the end of the presentation. And you can use the chat for that, right, Laura? For any questions that you might have. Okay. Moving on. So as I mentioned, one of the most important things about a business plan is it be complete and it be viable and feasible. I've read lots of business plans over the years, and I'll say to people, wow, that's an amazing business plan. I'm not really sure, you know, you've actually done the proper research to convince people that this product or service is actually viable. So that's a very important piece, and that's where the market research comes in. A lot of times I get people calling or emailing and saying, so I've got this idea, Sue, what do you think? And often I'll tell them, well, you know what, it's not really based on my opinion or Laura's opinion. We get it all the time. It's based on you doing the market research to find out whether this business makes sense, whether the market is saturated. Is it really a new product or service? A lot of times people will tell us there's absolutely no competition, and we're like, are you sure about that? So again, it's a matter of doing the research. And when you're looking for financing, oh my goodness, it's so important to have a business plan. It's one of the first things a bank will ask you for if you're looking for financing. And most banks actually have business plan templates on their website, or if you go in and see them, they will provide you their business plan. So again, this is the reason business plans are important. And I noticed from the number of participants that Laura shared that the majority of you are looking to start a business, and the rest of you have already started a business, but are in the early stages. So business planning is very important. I would say about 80% of businesses are starting without a business plan. So you're in good company. It sometimes businesses just happen, and people have probably done the business plan. They just don't have that written document. They just have it all up in their head. But it's a good idea to get it down on paper. So as I mentioned, there are different types of business plans, and this is one I'm going to bring up. We actually used to have a course on the business model canvas. It was a 2-day, and the book is available at your local library. But basically, the business model canvas is a one-pager. Because the thing about a business plan, it's kind of overwhelming. It's like, okay, write this business plan, whether it be 20 pages, 100 pages. It's often a little bit of a challenge for people. I know when I started my pizza store, that was the first thing I was asked when I went for financing. Do you have a business plan? I was like, no, I don't have a business plan. But this one pager kind of sorts out everything that you need to think about. And in our workshop, we actually have this on the second day. We have a huge poster of the business model canvas, and you write everything on Post-it notes and you put it in all the sections. So, who are your key partners in your business? You need to think about it. So it's basically a brainstorming session. So I often recommend that you do this first before you actually write your business plan. Laura actually wrote a blog about, I can't remember what you called it, Laura. You called it a business plan. Before your business plan, you called it a summary, or just, what'd you call it?
It's an overview, and
Right.
really it's you can take it and use it for your executive summary, but really it's just a framework to then fill in the gaps with more information afterwards.
Mm-hmm. So that helps you if you're not really sure where to start. And if I had to define it, it's basically a document. It's written. You have your goals, your marketing plans, your financial forecasts, and it basically is a planning tool, and it gives you all these actionable items that you need to work on. And that's the really important piece. Another thing Laura mentioned in her article that she wrote, it gives you these actions that you have to complete, and it gives you the timeline. So very important. You want these short-term and long-term goals. It just keeps you focused. So in my business, my goal was to break even in the first 3 months, because my business was losing a lot of money when I bought it. And it was actually an optimistic goal, because the business itself had been damaged, very poor image, poor service. Everything, all the people I talked to, I literally went door to door and talked to people, and I said, yeah, I ordered pizza. It was horrible. So I had this big challenge of, how do I get all these customers back, right? So, but that was my goal. I thought, what, if I can just break even in my first 3 months, I'm going to be, and I did. And then 6 months later, I started making money. So just make sure the goals you've set for yourself aren't too optimistic, because then you'll just get really disappointed. There are 4 key things that are critical to a business plan. You need to talk about the people. So in my experience as a pizza owner, I had my family. I had my husband at the time, and actually my kids did grow into wanting to work for me. But I had all these people that were able to provide me with advice. I had a lawyer, an accountant, but I also had a network of franchisees that would help me. So that's a very important piece, is to have those mentors, business consultants, people who can guide you through the process and help you prevent some of those mistakes that first-time business owners make. As far as the opportunity goes, This is just basically a profile of your business, what you're planning to sell and to who. Um, Whether your business is going to be one of those businesses that grows very quickly, and what stands in the way of your success. So that's something you just want to talk about. The big picture, we can help you with that at MBEC. That's basically the regulations that might affect your business. What are the interest rates, the demographics, and also, as we see ourselves in a pandemic, um, these are things that are uncontrollable. So you really do want to look at the big picture and how does that affect your business and whether you're prepared. The good, the bad, and the ugly is basically saying, are you prepared to take a risk? Every business is risky. I don't think anyone here today would ever have thought that we would have been going through what we're going through right now with this pandemic. It wasn't something that anybody had put under the threats in their business plan. So these are things you need to be prepared for. And a lot of these things are uncontrollable. So I'm going to talk about each section of the business plan. And I think one of the things that, as I said, people feel really challenged when they're writing a business plan. But one of the things I've found from many of my clients is that sometimes it's best to just do different sections at different times, like the title page. How hard is a title page? Not very difficult. So you go through and let's be creative. If you have a logo, put the logo on the business plan, a nice little tagline, your contact information, pretty simple. If you are in the creative industries, as Laura mentioned, we actually are going to have a music stream for our starter company, and also she has a music presentation coming up. But in that realm, in the creative realm, make your business plan exciting and interesting, right? It's like the cover of a book, make me want to turn that next page. So your table of contents, pretty straightforward. A lot of people forget this, especially if you've got an investor or someone looking at your business plan. They want to sort of skim through and see where everything is. They may just want to go right to the financial section if you're looking for a loan. Make sure the numbers match up to the pages. I know that sounds a little silly, but sometimes that does happen. And also include a table of contents with everything that is going to be in your appendix. An appendix, we're going to talk about a little bit later, is a really important piece of your business plan. Now, our executive summary is probably one of the most important pieces of your business plan because it's kind of like the Coles notes of your business plan, I guess. It's written last because it's basically a summary of all the key points that you're talking about in the plan. And here, as you can see, here's an overview. Now, you may think, wow, how am I supposed to get all this in 1 to 2 pages? That's why I'd recommend that you go to some of the links that Laura will provide to our business plan, sample business plans in the Gale virtual library that's available through our central library. All of you have access to this. It's just basically your library card and the last 4 digits of your phone number is the password. So you will see some sample executive summaries. They're very clear, to the point, identifying the product, the trends, and especially if you are looking for a loan, you want to have a section in there of how much you're looking for. So very important that you write your executive summary last. And as I mentioned, 1 page, maximum 2. And I would definitely recommend that you read some samples just to get an idea of what an executive summary should look like. Now, about the company is an important section as well. For most of you, you're all startups, so you're just going to talk about your company. If you were an existing company, you would talk about the history of your company. So the structure is very important. We talk about this in our 10 steps workshop. That's sole proprietor, partnership, corporation, not for profit, whatever that structure is. You're going to tell us at this point. Give us a very brief description of the concept. What is your competitive advantage? What sets you apart? Why am I going to buy your product? What are the advantages? Again, mentioning government regulations. I think the most important piece here is the business objectives. And we talk about business objectives being SMART. And basically, what we mean is that they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So if you are starting a cleaning company and you tell me I want to be the best cleaning company in Mississauga, I will tell you that's wonderful, but it's not a very good business objective. It's not smart. So basically, if you turned that around and you told me that I want to increase my share of the commercial market by 20% in the first year, I would say, is it achievable? Maybe you're a little bit lofty in being 20%. Maybe it needs to be 15 or 10. Is it relevant to the business? Of course it is. You're in a cleaning business. And if you're just doing residential and you decide, no, I'm going to be doing commercial, that totally makes sense. Is it timely? Yes, it's in the first year. So this is what we're trying to make you understand is it's important that these goals make sense and that they are measurable, because if you just say I'm going to be the best cleaning company, well, how do I measure that? You're in business for a year. How do I know what that means? We also have critical success factors, and critical success factors can be a number of things, and it depends on your business. So for instance, a critical success factor for you might be that the people that you are hiring are very important. Let's say you have a partner who's going into the business, who's bringing all kinds of contacts for you. Well, if you lose that partner, that's a very, very critical piece of your success. And what have you got in place, if that were to happen? So these are things you have to think about right at the beginning. Now, market research is an important piece, and Laura and I always tell clients that come in and ask us, what do you think? Is this a good idea or not? And we're always going to tell them the same thing. Well, you need to go out there and you do some market research. When I was looking at buying my pizza store, I didn't just go ahead and buy it. I decided to do a little research. I went to the town, which I didn't actually live in. I went to the nearest phone booth when they had phone booths. And I actually ripped out the pizza pages in the phone book. Probably should have done that. But I found there was about 17 different pizza places. So I thought, I got to do some research here. I got to find out who's already in business in this city and, how are they doing? Because my place wasn't doing well. I thought maybe people in this city don't like pizza. So I went into all these different pizza places. I found that some of them were quite successful. Some of them were not very successful. Terrible customer service, not very good products. So I knew that given that there were a lot of my competition was doing a lot of things wrong, I knew I had an opportunity to make a change. So that's primary research. This is research that you do yourself. And I would think it's probably one of the most important pieces, because you're actually out there talking to your customer and finding out what they want. We often recommend focus groups for this, getting 8 or 9 people together and asking them a lot of questions. You'll learn a lot about your business that way. Secondary research, just research that others have done. We have a really good section on our website for market research. Laura has collected a number of links that you can go to that are very helpful. The library as well has numerous resources for doing all this secondary research. Looking at economic trends, again, this part will be documented in your business plan, and normally you'll reference where you got these statistics from. Very important that you don't just mention something without saying where they came from. Describing your market again and your target market. And I think probably one of the most important things is your competitive advantage. So as mentioned earlier, what do you do better than anyone else? Why am I going to come to you? What are you going to offer me? And that was one of the things that I thought about when I started my business. I thought, there's all kinds of pizza places. Why are they coming to me? Well, one thing, I had a really amazing location that I had a ton of drive-by traffic. So one of the things I did to capitalize on that was I got my my phone girls to run outside and flash banners, that we had a special going on. And it was amazing how I was able to increase my customer base so quickly. SWOT analysis is something that we recommend that everyone do. You do a personal SWOT analysis, and then you do one on your competition. So there are a number of things that we're looking at here. So the strengths, you want to really take a personal look at yourself and say, what are my strengths? So let's say I'm a social media specialist. What are my strengths? Well, maybe the fact that I know every platform, I understand how they work. I give amazing customer service. People like working with me. These are all my strengths, right? Weaknesses, maybe I'm not well known in the market. Maybe I don't have a reputation. So maybe I don't have the goodwill that maybe my competitors have. So these are things that you want to look at. And the thing about a weakness is you want to look at it and say, how can I make this a strength? How can I turn this around? Okay, I'm not well known in the marketplace. Well, I need to get out there. I need to network. I need to, talk to people in the business and, get people to recommend me. So that's the thing you want to do. You want to point these weaknesses out and turn them into a strength. Opportunities and threats are normally things that we really don't have too much control over. Or sorry, I get this wrong. Yes, opportunities. Sorry, that goes fast. Opportunities are and threats, are external, meaning we don't really have much control over these things. So there might be elements in the environment that we can exploit. So for example, pandemic, here we are, COVID-19, there were a lot of companies who looked at the fact that they could convert their manufacturing facility and they could make PPE. There you go. So there's an opportunity. There's also been a lot of opportunities in the food business for restaurants to pivot their business into delivery. So when many of them were doing all dining room, they really didn't have a focus on takeout. All of a sudden now they're doing takeout. I even noticed the Keg in our area is doing curbside and actually has all these different packages made up that they never had in the past. So that's the opportunity. They needed to exploit it, given that obviously they were closed for a number of months. And many restaurants have done this. They've taken it, changed the way they do business to cater to the what's happening with the pandemic. Threats, these are elements in the environment that can cause problems. And again, we talked about this is the threat that there might be a second wave of COVID-19 and how that would affect business if that were to happen. So again, very important that you look at all four of these and also look at the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors as well. So marketing plan and promotion is a large section. So you're looking at the history of your product or service. You want to talk about it. What is your pricing strategy? Are you going to be competitively priced? Are you going to be higher priced? How are you going to determine that? So you want to look at, so for me, what I did was I went out into the all the restaurants, all the pizza places I visited, and I took their menus and I did a comparison. I actually put them on a chart. I took them all and figured out, okay, what are they charging for a medium pizza with 4 toppings? And what are they charging for pop and all these things? And I basically wanted to find out, sort of what the median price was for product. I didn't want to price myself out of the market, but I also didn't want to be the lower price because I was going to offer a quality product. I was going to provide good service. And to do that, my costs were going to be more because I was going to put more staff on. I was going to have more drivers. So I wanted to price myself properly. So whatever your product or service is, you want to look at everything in the environment that would influence the cost. And a lot of times people say that their competitive advantage is they're the cheapest. You don't really want it to be just that, right? You want to look at a number of things to determine what your pricing strategy is going to be. And it should be based on your expenses And it should be based on how much you want to make. So whatever your bottom line is. Because the fact is, you're here to make money. So there are a lot of sample marketing plans out there. There are a lot of books out there on marketing plans. And actually, some of the ones that I looked at the library actually, and you can get these at any bookstore, they were actually fillable. Like they were kind of cool. They actually had these weekly, monthly marketing plans where you could set out what you plan to do. So, for instance, in my case, I always had a set day of the week that it was actually Wednesdays. It was my one day for marketing. And I did a number of things. I had just, and this was, before social media, this was when we did flyers and all those kind of things. But I picked a street and it was called Street of the Week. And I would go up and down that street, handing out coupons, knocking on doors, talking to customers. And I did that every week. Now, some streets were a little long, so I had to do them in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but that was what I did. I had to talk to people, but I asked them, like they'd be right around the corner. I'd say, how did you like my pizza? Well, we hated it. Like, this is the kind of reception I was getting. I said, well, I'm the new owner. Please try us again. Here's $2 off, whatever. So I did that. I also, 2 networking events a month. Nowadays, you can do some virtual networking, but networking was a very important piece to my business. I was a chamber member. I was a Rotarian. I started a youth group. I was always getting myself involved because the more people you know, as far as I was concerned, the more my business went up because people knew me. So look at your initial prospects. Who are they? List 10 of them and contact them and make your marketing plan a habit, something that you are working on every day, every week, every month. And set your goals. What do you want to accomplish? And for me, I actually used to hit the streets and I would keep track of the orders that I got from those specific streets. And I did this basically because I thought, what am I wasting my time? And I would always find that I would get 1 or 2 orders, right? 1 or 2 new orders every week adds up. So networking, marketing, just make it part of your plan. So there's a lot to the marketing plan and promotion, as you can see here, and not all of you will have all of these. Like some of you may not have a distribution plan because you don't have a product. So these are a number of things here, but I guess they're all important depending on your business. If you are looking at a marketing strategy and it's digital, you need to talk to Laura or at least have it completed and have Laura review it. And, she's our digital marketing consultant, so she should be able to help you. Branding is so important. And actually, there was a couple of workshops recently on branding. I think RBC put them on. So you'll find a lot of really good branding and through some of the other, I'm going to talk about them later, the Rick Center and iCube. So branding is a really important piece. You'll find a lot of really good free info out there. All these other things, warranties, customer service policy, again, kind of depends on your business, but this would be included in your marketing plan and promotion. Now, operations and management is kind of like, I don't know, it's like a laundry list of things. Very easy to do, shouldn't be difficult. Basically, where are you located, right? What are your hours of operation? For license and regulations, please come to MBEC or just visit, or you can't come to MBEC, but you can contact us on the phone or email. But we do have a really helpful website. It's mississauga.ca/BizPal, BIZPAL. And all you have to do is go on there and put your business, the type of business that it is, and you have to check up the number of boxes, and it will tell you the kind of licensing you would need for your business. So really important, you want to start off on the right foot. You want to make sure that you've got everything because you don't want a bylaw officer to come by and you find out that you haven't got the right licensing for your business. You also, at this point, would probably talk about any type of insurance for any of you consultants out there. Errors and emissions insurance is, it's not mandatory, but it is definitely recommended. I'll look at that. Certain types of businesses require a license as well. Some, and this is where a lot of people get mixed up. So there's city licensing and there's provincial licensing. So provincial licensing is your master business license. So if you're a sole proprietor or partnership, this is something you would need to get. If you plan on incorporating, you would incorporate first and then get your master business license. But you need the master business license to open up your bank account and to get any other city licensing. So it's just a matter of the order you do it in. Again, if you have any questions about that, please email me. Equipment and technology. So this also comes in your startup plan. What do you actually need to start this business? Are you leasing equipment or are you purchasing equipment? Again, if you have a product, you're going to need to have inventory control and product packaging, which can be quite involved. So again, it kind of depends on the type of business that you plan on operating. Again, you'll need to list your suppliers and vendors. Actually, I've had a lot of people do this and they actually put in a chart of suppliers because it's always a good idea to have more than one supplier, because if something happens to that supplier, you don't want your business to shut down because you can't get the supplies to your customer. Staffing and setup, who are they? And again, if there's specific people in your organization, you may want to include their resumes in your appendices. Web-based planning, even if you decide not to have a website. Now, most businesses nowadays, Laura will tell you that there's very few that don't have websites. Even if you don't sell online, it doesn't matter. It's just like website is like your big old business card, really, especially nowadays because you can't really physically hand out a business card. If people hear about you, probably one of the first things they're going to do is go to your website. So even if you don't have a website planned or you're just thinking about it, that's fine. You may include some details in your appendix. But yeah, web-based planning, what is it about? And then you might have some timelines like, okay, 6 months from now, this is when I'm going to have my website, or maybe 2 years from now, whatever it is. Some people, it's the very first thing that they will have. Major contracts and agreements, again, this is depends on the business. Your pricing, and this is basically costing it out and explaining what your markup is. How does the management piece work? We actually look for an organizational chart, and you'll see that on some of those business plan templates that will explain, you know, who are all these people and what are their roles. So it's a really important section because it probably makes you think about things that maybe you didn't think about or that you even had to worry about. Financial plan. So whenever I talk about financial plans with clients, they get a little overwhelmed because this is when you get to the nitty gritty, the numbers. And it's so important, especially if you're borrowing money or if you have a partner in the business and they're contributing funds. Everybody wants to know, you know, first of all, how much money do you need? Now, almost everyone here is a startup. I know there's a few that have already started. So if you're planning an expansion, same thing. You need to know what is this expansion money that you need and what are you using it for? So we're going to talk about sources and uses and the cash flow. So the sources and uses is a lovely little chart here. I find it really helpful because it makes you really think about what you need to spend money on. Now you'll see under item here that I've listed all these things: inventory, advertising, accounting, insurance, phone and utilities, professional fees, trade shows, rent, travel. Like there's all kinds of things, but you may have 10 more. So it's whatever your business is. Like you may need to purchase an accounting program because you're going to do QuickBooks. You may have to have a partnership agreement because you're bringing on a partner. You may have leasehold improvements because you're renting a space that's completely void of anything. You don't even have a bathroom in there, right? And so all these things depend on your business and how much it's going to cost. So before you even consider going to the bank or getting a partner or looking for investors, you need to figure out exactly what you need. You can't go into a bank and say, well, I think I need maybe 100 to 150,000. They're probably not going to be very happy with that. So you go in there and you say, this is what I need and this is what I'm spending it on. Now, the thing is, it's also a good idea to go in with two scenarios because you can lease some equipment. And so that way you don't have to borrow as much. So if you feel maybe the bank isn't willing to give you as much money as you need based on your equity, based on your investment, maybe you go in and say, here's the two scenarios. This scenario, I need 100,000. This scenario, I need 65 because I'm going to be able to lease this equipment. The bank might be more interested in going the lease way because there's less money, there's less risk. So again, you need to look at those things. So the costs of the item are listed in the first column, and then whatever you plan on contributing is in the second column, and you're going to say, well, I'm contributing, let's say it's 40,000 in the first column and you're contributing 20, and where is that 20 going? And then the loan, which is 20,000. Now, the thing is, you may want to borrow more money than you actually need. It is harder to get. We call it working capital, but it's always nice to have a bit of a contingency fund. You don't want to get to, paying all your expenses and then you made a mistake and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough money. And then you have to go back to the bank again. It's probably better to ask for more than you need and, hope that you get what you need. So that's the sources and uses of funds. It's very helpful when you're trying to figure out your startup or even your expansion plans. You just list all your expenses in the first column. Now, this is the one that I don't want you to get too overwhelmed about. Everybody looks at this and goes, wow, like it looks confusing and overwhelming. But once you sit down and fill out the numbers, it's not really that complicated. And one of the things that I recommend, and you'll see here, I know it's small, but it says operational expenses. It's easier to start with your expenses because you know what they are, right? You know what your rent is going to be. You know what your leasehold improvements are going to be. You know what the cost of your course is going to be. If you plan on doing a website and you've hired a website developer, you know all these costs. So plunk all those in first, because the revenue piece is a little bit difficult. And I've had people that have a lot of trouble in this area. And I suggest that you speak to an accountant or bookkeeper. So for example, my accountant, when I was in my pizza business, he did the books for almost all the other franchisees and other restaurants. So he had an idea of what their revenues were. So the one thing though, I actually bought an existing business, so I had no idea what the sales were going to be because they virtually had almost no sales when I bought the store. So it was hard for me to predict. So he was very helpful, and he said, Sue, most stores that open up do really well because they're brand new, but you are, let us say, not the same. You are a business that has a poor image and has lost a lot of customers. So he said to me, I think you're probably going to do half as well. He just picked that number and said, why don't we look at maybe 5,000 a week instead of 10,000 a week, right? And it was so funny because that's exactly what I ended up doing. So it was just a guess, but let us say it was an educated guess. So that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for you to sit down and figure out what your sales are. But it's a lot easier if you're someone who is, let us say, a mechanic. So for example, a mechanic is open, let's say 5 days a week, and he's working 9 to 5, and maybe on Saturdays he works 5 hours. How many oil changes can he do? How many tires can he change? Maybe he's going to do one major job a week. So you figure out exactly what he can do, and you get to a point and say, okay, this is how much I can do, but if I bring in 2 employees, I can do this much more. Then you add in their revenue. So you see how it all it kind of falls into place, but it needs to be based on what you can do. I know one time I met with a consultant and he had these huge numbers, and I said, how many people are you hiring? He goes, oh, no, just me. I said, how many hours a week are you working? Because it didn't make any sense that he could do this much because there were only so many hours in the day. and he was charging an hourly rate. So it just has to be reasonable, and you have to base it on your assumptions. You can't go into a bank and say, yeah, I'm going to do 100,000 a week. The bank is going to wonder, where is this coming from? What are your assumptions, right? So you have to, I would recommend, as I said, meeting with an accountant or a bookkeeper. They are experts in the area and they have industry stats and the associated costs of the revenues. Again, their averages, their estimates, but at least it's going to be something that is going to be supported by the assumptions that you've made. The next section is risk and mitigation. Please always remember that every business has risks, and as entrepreneurs, you have to be willing to take risk. However, most of you, I would think, would like to reduce your risk. So that's why you write a business plan. That's why you do all this market research. That's why you figure out, what could go wrong before you open your business. Because no one starts a business to lose money, and a lot of people do, as I'm sure you're aware. So you need to identify all these risks, internal, external, and put some mitigation plans in place. Also, your action plans. I've seen people use what we call a Gantt chart, GNTT. It's basically a horizontal bar chart that's used to identify all of the timelines of all those actions that you've identified in your business plan and when they're going to get completed. It's really great because it's a really good system of you checking everything off and saying, yes, I've completed this. These are like milestones for your company, and they will determine whether you're going to be successful or not. So always list these milestones. And sometimes this action plan can be, I've seen them, they can be 2 or 3 pages long, where they can be bar charts of all these little actionable items and the order that they're going to go in and the date. So that really will, it'll keep you focused on what you need to accomplish. All right. So as I mentioned, the appendices are extremely important because it's an opportunity for you to share information. What are your accomplishments? If you've completed a survey, the resume of the main characters, all these things are really, so that's why it wasn't there. Okay, sorry. Sample marketing materials. Oh, I just love this when people put this in. They put a copy of the brochure. They put their the web page, like the what's it called, Laura? The first page of the website. Does it have a name?
Of the website, the homepage?
The landing page or homepage?
Well, homepage.
Yeah, it's an example of the homepage. Another thing that I thought was really cool in one business plan that I got is he provided 5 logos and said, which one do you like? This was in the appendix, but basically he had 5 logos that he was working on, and he had a focus group, sat everybody down and showed them all the logos and said, which one do you like, kind of thing. Any type of supporting documentation needs to go in the appendix. Any references to any statistical data. If you did a survey, the survey results and the survey can go in here as well. So I've seen appendix that are like 20, 30 pages long. It's whatever, and again, you will need to have this included in your table of contents, so anyone reviewing your business plan knows where to find the information. So these are just some tips for business plans. I'm not going to say how many pages it should be because I've seen 10-page business plans. I've seen 100-page business plans. I must say I don't want to read a 100-page business plan. So I think you need to keep it, make sure you have all the pertinent information in there. Most of the business plans that I see that are reasonable and the sample business plans you will see online with the links we've provided are about 20 to 25 pages. And then they have maybe 5 or 6 pages in the appendix. But the one thing that's really important is that it's consistent. And if you're really not sure about that, ask someone to read it and get their opinion. Ask a couple people to read it. You should always write in a third party. You shouldn't be saying I or my. You should be saying the company or we. As I mentioned, the pages need to reflect the page numbers, all your contact information on the front cover. It's amazing how many times I've received business plans with no contact information on the front, or they just put the company name and they don't put the name of the person or the phone number, the email. So just simple little things. I threw this slide in because I thought maybe you'd like to hear from me over the years. I guess I've been doing consulting now for 15 years. A general profile of people that I have worked with that have been successful. And I think one of the main things is they're always focused on developing their business. It doesn't matter how profitable they are. It doesn't matter how busy they are. They're always taking time to allocate time to build their customer base. And that means networking, reaching out to their customers to see if they're happy. Like, when was the last time you had some work done at your house and they called you up and asked you, how was it good? Were you pleased with the work? These are things that are really important. This is what's going to get that customer to come back, because we work really hard to get customers. For some reason, a lot of businesses don't try and keep them. And if you do get a negative response, make sure you follow up on it. Don't just ignore it. And nowadays, we see it on Facebook. There's a lot of people will put comments on Facebook. I think it's important that you respond, because I think it says a lot about the person that you do care about your customers and you want to make them happy. The other thing that's very important is that they don't rush things. They're patient. They generally wait to expand their business until they have sustainable growth and profitability. A lot of times I see people, I'm doing really well. I need to make new products. And all of a sudden they've spread themselves out too thin. They don't have the staff to handle the business and they fail. So very important piece that you have that growth plan in place and actually meet with someone to help you scale up your business. Also, most have one independent advisor or mentor. In my case, I was pretty lucky. I had a lot of different franchisees that I could call up on and ask them questions and tell them, what do you think of this marketing idea? And I'm having trouble in this area, how can you help me? And it was probably one of the things that helped me be successful so quickly, was that I wasn't making the mistakes that others had made because I had these mentors that were helping me out. Another thing I see with business, and it's not even mentioned here, well, it's kind of about financing, but that they don't borrow all the money to start the business. The problem when you borrow all the money to start the business, if you have any issue, where's the rest of the money going to come from? So if you have some savings and you put it aside and you borrow money, then you have a contingency fund to fall back on if things don't go as well as you planned. It's the number one reason for failure, is that businesses aren't financed properly. And I think the other thing that's really important is that business owners who do the research and find that the market that they're aiming for, it's not going to happen, they walk away, or they change their business plan in order to be successful. That's the thing too. Even marketing plans. If your marketing plan isn't working, I'm not saying a week or a month, I'm saying, but if your marketing plan isn't working and you're not getting anybody or any new clients or new customers from your marketing plan, maybe you need to change it. Maybe you need to do something a little differently. Now, these are some of our innovation centers, and I'm sure most of you are aware. If there are anyone in this group that has an innovation, invented something, a new product, the RIC Center here in Mississauga provides business startup services and access to incubator space for entrepreneurs, startups, and mature tech companies. Sheridan Edge, right around the corner from us, offers workspace, mentorship, training, and it's not just for students. They offer it to anyone in the community. Also, same with UTM, they have the iCube, which is basically a hub. And again, it's for students, but it's for anyone in business, early stage development with an idea. They provide co-working space, resources, and access to opportunities. They also have programs, and I believe have some grant programs. I'm not sure exactly what they have currently. Here's some of those resources that we were talking about, where you can find business plan samples. Futurepreneur was one I don't think I mentioned. That is also with BDC. The Gale Virtual Library is the one that has some wonderful sample business plans. And also lynda.com, which I think is called LinkedIn Learning Now. They have a number of experts talking about business plans and how to write a business plan and how to prepare a business plan. Scotiabank, RBC, CIBC, they all have business plan templates. So there's a lot of really good information out there. So we've got our questions. I think we've got enough time.